Hi folks, so on this video today, this is of a walk that I did a good month or two ago now. I got the train to Buxton on the same line, thankfully, as Whaley Bridge, so it's just one standard fee for the return. And from Buxton town centre, I made my way to the right, down outside of the train station, and into the town centre itself, which is a beautiful place. Walk through the pavilion gardens, which again is amazing Victorian architecture with beautiful domed buildings and landscaped gardens and fields with an amazing river running through it too, with little bridges, lots of grass, great for families on a hot sunny day. However, out of the town of Buxton, up quite a steep hill to the left, most of the journey you're actually following the Cromford and High Peak railway, which now no longer exists. And on the first photo that you see popping up here, you can just about see the raised bed, obviously artificially raised bed that the track used to lay on as it goes off towards the south, and the blocked up tunnel, which heads under the farm that we're about to walk through, the farmland that we're about to walk through. Blocked up now, but this is, we'll be talking about where it actually comes out a little bit later. Top of the moors between Buxton and where am I going? Somewhere over there, Whaley Bridge, and I think this may be the highest I'm going to get, but I'm out of puff, as you can probably tell. Little town there, and onward ho, as they say, or maybe they don't. And it's at this point, just as we start descending into the valley, where the reservoirs are nestled a bit further down, if you turn round to the left, you can see the unmistakable old railway track reappears from the hillside, all boarded up now, as you can see from the photo here. Interesting now that we're going to be following this railway line all the way down to Whaley Bridge, and what a high railway line it was. It's hard to believe this is an old railway line across the top of the moors. It was only around for about 80 years and then it was shut down. Look at the beautiful valleys. Previous ice ages have shaped and folded the land and created these huge ravines. Beautiful. So nice to be up here, peaceful, in the middle of nowhere, with blue sky. Now, the main reason for the line, which was opened in 1831, was a connection between two canals, completed in 1831, and I actually, during the video itself, I misquoted myself. 1967 was when it eventually met its demise, so just over 130 years the railway was actually in use, and I think mostly for the transportation of minerals and trying to find a way to connect resources with Manchester. Not really used a lot for passenger transport. You can see from some of my photos here just how much work actually went into creating this railway. Obviously they tried to follow the contours of the land as much as possible, but there were places like here where they had to make quite high raised banks in order to get the railway around the curves in the landscape. You can see, I think this was a man-made pond that they actually created so that the locomotives could restock with water. The guide that I'm following promised a stunning view as the road that I'm on now turns round and bends down the valley. And wow, this person wasn't lying. Look at that. You could easily be in the Lake District or the foothills of the Andes or something. Beautiful lake or reservoir, one of the two down there. Find out when I get down there. Wow, this country is just astounding. You can just hear how steep that hill is by the cars that are struggling to go up it. And but wow, and I'm just gonna keep going on about this valley. Is just amazing. Every turn, every bit more that you see as you go over the horizon, just forest there. The colours, the dark, stark, tall trees just stabbing into the misty mountain that sits behind it, and the reservoir down there. I don't know if it's one that I'm familiar with. Oops, I'm not drunk, honest. Just the combination here of moorlands with trees on. I think maybe how much like how it would have looked hundreds or thousands of years ago before man came along, and sheep and whatever else happened to make it so bleak and barren in the Pennines normally. But beautiful, the light of the sun, and as it's dipping in and out between the fluffy white clouds and casting great big shadows on the ground. It's just stunning. Absolutely stunning, and not just fir trees and coniferous trees, but deciduous woodland as well, mixed in and preserved and probably encouraged, I would imagine, all the way there into the distance. It's a pleasure to see, mixed in of course with England's patchwork quilt of fields and brick walls. I want to stay here forever. There's one sign I've never seen before in my life. Can you guess what it says? Danger, deep mud. Won't be going in there then. And so as I descend down to the lake, to the beautiful sunlit trees, still on the track of an ancient railway line. If you listen carefully, you can hear the sound of a beautiful mountain stream as it babbles its way down to the water below. If you can hear it, that is, above the voices of those gossipy housewives down there, catching up on all their husbands' misdemeanours. And there it is, gurgling its way down the mountainside. Waterfalls are such a joyous thing, aren't they? Full of energy, full of life. Beautiful to look at. Bit of a problem if you're a fish, I guess. And so finally I made it down to the reservoirs. You kind of skirt the first reservoir, which is known as the Irwood Reservoir, and join the bottom of the valley at Fernley Reservoir, which then continues, the line continues along the side of the reservoir and beyond. Fernley Reservoir was actually built in 1937, about 30 years before the Irwood Reservoir to the south. The original plan was actually to build both at the same time, but World War II got in the way and there was a shortage of labour and finance and materials, etc. In fact, before Fernley Reservoir was there, it was actually almost like a small town called Fernley Powder Factory, which was a gunpowder factory employing over 120 people, and unfortunately there were many fatal explosions there, now buried completely beneath the reservoir. I did notice that the number of people that I passed increased quite a lot. Lots of dog walkers, people just walking out for the day, and obviously with the size of the two reservoirs back to back there, it's a popular place, very flat. Anyone with a wheelchair or disabled would easily be able to be pushed around. You've got a good couple of miles walk there just going around to both reservoirs, and a parking place too. Whew. Quite some steep hills, as you can probably tell by my puffed outness. Beautiful though, forest either side, very dense. No wild camping here. I love the way that all the brick walls are covered in this lovely spongy moss. Beautiful, soft, warm to the touch. Evidence of years and years of just being left. And so far this route that I found on the internet is proving fairly accurate. Great. I should be looking forward to a nice pint of Guinness when I get home, and a bath, and some roast lamb. Let's see where the next bit takes us. Now, after just a little meandering the other side of the reservoirs, there is another, again, some more road walking, but it's only 5 or 10 minutes at the most, and then you cut through the countryside, which Google Maps didn't really like me doing very much, and it sort of cocked up my route a bit there, but as I say, I'll link it in the description so you can get the exact details. And you end up in a place called Shall Cross, which is a very ancient, there's a cross there, as you can see from the photos, which did once have a pillar, if you like, that did actually once have a stone cross on it. The stone cross was reputed to have been stolen by the Vikings, etc. So there's lots of history involved there. All the street names have got Shall Cross as their names. The local landowner that used to live there, I don't know if still does, went by the name of Shall Cross. So there's lots of old ancient traditions dating back hundreds if not thousands of years around this part of the country, and if you're interested, then I guess you should look it up and have a look yourself, because there's far too much for me to talk about here. But as you can see, once through that small part of the housing estate, you are on what is the last part of the railway as it heads down into Whaley Bridge, and one of the steepest inclines as the wagons struggled not only to get up the incline but also down it as well. So there was all sorts of inventive methods by which stationary steam engines were used to winch the wagons up and down the hills. I think it's one of the steepest inclines on this journey, was 1 in 7, and I think at the highest point this railway was about 1200 feet, which is more actually than the highest railway line that we have today, which is up in Scotland somewhere. I know on some previous videos I have moaned about long straight paths with trees overlapping, but they are beautiful nonetheless. And this, I didn't read the billboard properly, so I'll read it on the photo that I took later on. But what a beautiful, probably ancient footpath this is that I'm following down to Whaley Bridge. You can just imagine that this was traipsed as people crossed the country hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This was the route that they took. This was the kind of environment that they experienced in between towns. Beautiful. I shall be glad to arrive in Whaley Bridge, and this may well be the last bit of countryside that I get to film, so making the most of it. Beautiful, and the wildlife today is just spectacular. And so after a succession of tunnels and with very sore legs, I finally plodded into Whaley Bridge. And as you can see, there are still places like this wrought iron bridge here where parts of the tracks actually still exist, which is nice to see that it's been preserved. Eventually I made it down into the centre of Whaley Bridge itself, and as you can see from these photos here, we're now connected again with the canal network, which would take canals and goods one way or the other towards Manchester or back down towards the south via this railway connection. And the old listed building here, which is the shed where all of this happened, all of the transferring to and from happened, is still there, and it's been protected. And I highly recommend having a look round. The guy there was very helpful, said go and have a look round. They're in the process of transforming it and making it look as if it, you know, how it used to once be, which is great. And they've got a little charity thing going, and they're organising events that are happening there. So it's good to see that this whole building is being preserved, and some of the history that was involved, albeit for only 100 years or so, is available for us to see. And then finally to the train station, and what a journey it was. A beautiful sunny day, a good 9-mile trek, nothing really too strenuous. The walk is, I would say, a moderate walk with just a couple of steep bits at the beginning, but the rest of it is downhill and most of it is on track or road. I highly recommend it if you want a nice day out, and 3 or 4 hours, and you'll have a fantastic time. So thanks for watching, folks. I'm certainly going to go and do this walk again at the earliest opportunity. In fact, since making this video, I've actually been back another 2 times in slightly different directions. Highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like downstairs, and if you subscribe, that would be fantastic.